Good morning, all. It is great to see you all in a Zoom webinar on on the domicile, on the changes in domicile, and its implications on KPs in general, and especially KP entrepreneurs. So I really welcome you all. Thanks for sharing your time, and it is a great opportunity for us to know from community stalwarts like Mr. Anil Bhatt, who is the PTI chairman of Jammu, who is the press bureau chairman of Jammu, and Mr. Kuldeep Khodaji, who is the ex DGP of J&K and has a vast experience in these matters. So they are nothing less than a treasure house of knowledge. So I would request all of you, to wait, till they join. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. Good morning, sir. Good morning. We have been joined by Mr. Kuldeep Khodaji, uh, who's our guest speaker for the day, along with Mr. Anil Bhattji. Good morning, sir. I hope
Good morning.
all is well from your end, and we are really fortunate enough that you've actually given your time for us, so that we know more about the prevalent situation, prevalent topic that is going on in the valley and globally, as to about the new domicile changes that have happened in J&K, and what will be the implications of the same on KPs in general, as well as KP entrepreneurs. So this is a raging topic going on among all our entrepreneur friends, and they have been asking, like, what will be the implication. So till the time Mr. Anil Bhatt ji, he's also joining. I think we can start the webinar, wherein I would request Kuldeep ji, as you all know, he's the ex DGP of J&K state, and he is handled J&K at the time when it was at the most delicate situation, and he has got a loads of experience, and he is a treasure house of knowledge. So that is one of the reasons that we kindly invited him to share his knowledge among all KPs globally who want to know more about the new domicile changes. And I would request you, sir, now, uh, just to first of all, just to go from basics, because we do not know much about the new changes, and what are the implications of on the common man. First of all, common KP, or maybe a common Kashmiri outside, and then we can go on the entrepreneur section. But first, let us see what are the main features, sir, of the new domicile changes.
Avinurji, thank you very much for asking me to join on this occasion when our youngsters are online. May I know how many are there who have joined the Zoom, because we should start with the participation, which matters, which.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have been joined by, at the moment, there are 33 attendees who are there, and we are live on Facebook. So we'll be joined by a lot of people, as well as YouTube also, as I've been told on our channel. So we'll be, as the whole thing goes live. It is live. We'll be joined by a lot of people from all over the world, and this will be obviously recorded as well, so that anybody has any reference, if they are not able to join, they will be easily able to refer to whatever you have said. And so, it's people are joining by the second. So so if you could
No,
just
this is
help
fine.
us. Yes, sir.
I got
Thank
it.
you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Abhinav. Thanks for arranging all this. It's
Thank you, sir.
it's heartening to know that you are taking lead in these matters, and along with your colleagues.
Sure,
And
sir.
it is some sort of this forum which we require very strongly. We require a very strong mechanism to have interaction electronically through technology, because we all know that the KPs are scattered all over the globe, and meeting in person is generally not possible for the reasons very well known. And this sort of effort obviously saves on time, effort, as well as it will give us lots of opportunities to keep on meeting frequently, exchanging views, and thinking about the ways forward. And this is an outstanding and excellent forum you have created, and my compliments to you and your other colleagues.
Thank you, sir.
Who
Thanks.
have done it. Now, coming to the recent changes which have been introduced, dispensing with the PRC, that's the Permanent Resident Certificate, which is generally referred to as State Subject Certificate. Now, let's first of all understand it very well that the Permanent Resident Certificate has been totally dispensed with.
Okay.
Now, why it has been dispensed with, there is a strong reason for that. Though lots of people have entered into debate that the PRC should have been taken as a de facto domicile certificate, as a deemed certificate of domicile. It would have saved a lot of effort of the people, persons who are already in possession of PRC, and they would not have to go through the process of obtaining another certificate now as domicile certificate. But let me make it very clear, you know, what the present government has done is to cater for future also, not only for the present. And Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory right now. And in the union territory also, the present dispensation is not a permanent feature. There's a requirement of an assembly in due course of time, the elected assembly, and a duly elected chief minister and a cabinet on the pattern of Delhi. The way we have the chief minister and cabinet in Delhi, on same pattern it's to be envisaged. And then there's a commitment of the government on the floor of the parliament that at some appropriate time in future, the timeline has not been given, and it can get converted back to full-fledged state as it was existing before. So now how to cater for this situation? So what has been thought very wisely and with a deep thought of foreseeing the future is that at some point of time, some dispensation for variety of reasons may try to create a distinction between the PRC and the domicile certificate. Like some facilities which may be entitled to only PRC holders, and some facilities which may not be extended to domicile certificate holders. So the government in its wisdom thought that we should dispense with the PRC in toto, so that for all times in future, there is no distinction between person A holding PRC and person B holding domicile certificate. And the second reason is, of course, that it's on the pattern of the domicile certificates existing in many other states, if not all states of the country, but many other states. And J&K was an exception where we had the permanent resident certificate. Now it has been brought at level with other states. And beyond the localized thing, that sometimes there are arguments and counter arguments for and against it. Beyond that, let's look at the present day world. The world has become a global village. The boundaries are disappearing. The trade knows no barriers virtually. And the key to the progress is that if we dismantle barriers and boundaries, of course, every country has to maintain its sovereignty and integrity. But as far as relationship is concerned, let's have humanity residing as a global community on this earth. So creating barriers between the countries are disappearing. The barriers within the between the countries are disappearing. So there is no reason why to have barriers within the country between various states. So it is always better to become part of a national forum, streamline ourselves with the national requirements, and the nation in turn streamlines itself along the global requirements. So this is as far as critics of this domicile notification issued by the Government of India is concerned. So in all ways, whether it benefits A category or B category or C category, forgetting about that, it's the requirement of the future time that we should not have distinctions created between people and people, especially living within one country. And it had an ironic distinction again that a PRC holder would be entitled to all sorts of whether you call it privileges or facilities like buying land, buying flat, taking job in all other states of the country.
Right.
But the reverse was not true. I mean, you can't have an arrangement where A tells B that you extend to me all the facilities which I require in your territory, but at the same time tells B that you can't have the reciprocal facilities in my state, in my territory. So you can't have these sorts of artificial barriers and artificial coordination done. It has to be on equal footing. So now let's come to the brass tacks, the basics. Now this domicile thing which has been introduced, I will go straightway to the latest notification which has been issued in this matter. The first one was, of course, when the state was converted into a union territory through a Government of India notification dated 6th August 2019. And then later on, in amendment to various acts which are prevalent in Jammu and Kashmir, the amendment was made in the civil services recruitment rules, where the domicile thing was defined loosely as a person who has been staying here, having voting rights, having PRC or registered as a migrant in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But it did not went on to define the character of a domicile in full, in an unambiguous manner. There was a lot of ambiguity in that. So in clarification to that, the government issued another notification. The government of J&K issued another notification on 16th of May, that's about a fortnight back, where things have been all cleared. Now, in a sense, this notification makes broadly all the people, which includes the Kashmiri Pandits, eligible to be domiciles of Jammu and Kashmir if they have been part of J&K from 16th of May 1944 onwards.
Okay. New thing. Okay.
So that's the cutoff line. Now, how do you establish that you have been part of Jammu and Kashmir on that particular date or afterwards?
Right.
Now, first of all, as you know, the PRC, the permanent resident certificate, or what we call a state certificate also generally, that is of course there, that's a valid proof. The second is that it has catered for all those bona fide people, the displaced persons or migrants and their descendants who are not registered with the Relief Commissioner of Jammu and Kashmir and may have left for a variety of reasons, such as being outside Jammu and Kashmir, not having been able to register in the past, or registered with some other government in the country, or has left J&K due to situation or circumstances beyond his or her control. Now, his or her control means if somebody went out for education, if somebody went out for job, and of course, those who went out en masse in 1990 and afterwards, they were there, of course, there. Now, all these people who are already not registered with the Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner of J&K.
Mhm.
Now, before that, let me make two things clear. All those holding PRC certificates, they have to apply to Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner for issuance of domicile certificate, which will be online.
Online.
For that, website is being created, and for that, an app is also being created. So
Great.
that you don't have to come and visit the office or physically come sometime and get the certificate. It will be made available online. So
Globally-
anybody staying anywhere in the country, anywhere globally, can apply for it.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
So there is no person should get worried about it. Then second category is those who are already registered with the Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner J&K, whose office is in Jammu. They can also apply on domicile certificate for domicile certificate, again online, which will be issued.
Great.
Now there's a third category which I mentioned, which this 16th May 2020 notification has discussed it in length. That is those who don't have PRC and those who are not registered with the Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner J&K. Now for them, a timeline of 1 year has been given. It is 1 year timeline is for this category of people.
All right.
To first get registered with the Relief and the Relief and Rehabilitation Commission J&K.
Right.
And they can apply it simultaneously for registration as well as domicile certificate. They have to do two things. Apply for registration as well as domicile certificate. The first two categories have to only apply for their domicile certificate. Now this third category, which is not registered, they have to apply for registration and domicile certificate simultaneously. Now what is required for registration and issuance of domicile certificate? Now the explanation which has been given in this notification broadly, I think, entirely covers everybody who has left Jammu and Kashmir without being registered from 1944 onwards. Now, they require for registration and getting domicile certificate, they require just one of the 7 documents.
Right.
Now I'll mention those 7 documents. It's not all 7 documents, it's just one of those documents.
Okay.
One is if the parents or grandparents of the applicant are having a PRC.
Okay.
The state subject.
State subject.
The parents as well as or grandparents. It's not both. It's parents or grandparent. Any of those. Issued by J&K government, will be whether it was deputy commissioner issuing or Tehsildar issuing the PRC, whosoever was
concerned.
Then the second is, if somebody's name is existing in the electoral roll of 1951.
Okay.
Now there are people born after 1951, most of the present generation. Now in their case, it is if their name or their parents' name or their grandparents' name is there in the electoral roll. It's not all three, it is just one of the three. Either he himself
or his parents or his
parent is in the electoral roll of 1951 or his grandparents are the electoral roll.
So that covers the whole base, because grandparents also, if they are also enrolled, that means he's eligible.
Obviously, any grandparent born in 1944 or afterwards, his or her name was there on the electoral roll of 51. So if it is existing there, so covered. Now there is another option now, the third option, or that is if the name of the applicant is existing in the 1988 electoral roll. Now this covers people who left from 89 onwards.
89 onwards, migration.
So their name was obviously there in 1988 electoral roll.
Yeah.
Like I'll give my example. My sisters left in 1967 for reasons which are applicable to most of the KP community members. Like my elder sister, those who were below in merit were selected as lecturers in the Women College Srinagar.
Yeah.
And she was not selected. She left and joined Delhi University, and she became a lecturer there in Delhi University straightway. Kashmir University didn't accept her. The Women College of Maulana Azad Road didn't accept her, but Delhi University accepted her. So she left in 67. My another sister, who aspired to be a doctor, those who had got marks below her, they got admitted into MBBS Medical College Srinagar, so she left outside.
Yeah, of course.
My brother, he had merit, he didn't get admission in REC Srinagar. That time it was REC, now it is NIT, Regional Engineering College. He didn't get admission there. He got admission in Banaras Hindu University in engineering, which is a national university. He was not considered fit for REC, but he was considered fit for BHU. Now my another brother also left in same circumstance in 65. I also left for one of the similar reasons, but because I joined IPS, I was allotted J&K cadre, so I came back. So that's how it is. So in our family, we were 5 siblings. All of us had to leave for these reasons. And this is why I'm telling this example is this. It is this sort of situation is applicable to most of the KP community members. Absolutely. Who have left J&K.
Absolutely.
In one way or the other, this is applicable to all of them.
Merit is actually not a criteria there, and because
now this was the situation as it was existing that time, and let's hope things get better. We're not asking for a special treatment. What we're asking for is equity and equality.
Absolutely.
So now 1951 and 1988 electoral roll I have mentioned. Now if somebody, there is another, now if the above these 3 are not there, then the 4th option is also there, that if somebody has been working anywhere in the country in a J&K government, on a J&K government job, or in an autonomous institution of J&K, of government, or in any other entity owned fully or partially by J&K government.
Okay. Like JK.
So if you can get this, I was working there, because those appointments were granted on the basis of that time the PRC. Now PRC is not existing, somehow electoral roll maybe uska naam nahi aaya, or his father it's not there, and electoral rolls are available with the Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner. So you have to give reference to that, and that will be checked, cross-checked there, and that's there. Now this is another option. If these 4 are not there, the 5th option is that if you have some proof of owning or possessing immovable property in J&K, in any part of J&K, after 14th of May 1944. Now it's not 16th of May, it is 14th of May 1944. If you have any revenue document or any revenue record or any reference to any revenue record, even if you don't have document, but you have reference to that which can be traced, because revenue records are existing with the concerned deputy commissioner in districts. Now, if you or your parents or anybody in your family is having a record of possessing or owning immovable property in J&K at any time on or after 14th of May 1944. Like somebody having an orchard, somebody having some land somewhere. So obviously the land must be on the name of parents, grandparents, or like that.
Absolutely.
Now after that is another category, those who were not registered in J&K but were registered elsewhere, like in Delhi, Bangalore, Pune, elsewhere.
Right.
Now,
that's
now that they have to get registered in J&K with the Relief Commission J&K on the basis of registration which they have done in those states, at those places.
Right.
And the last is that if you have any document which can prove that you were eligible for issuance of permanent resident certificate before 6th of August 2019. So that means if you have any document, with the documents which were required before, because after 6th of August 2019, the PRC thing is gone. So documents which were required for getting a PRC before 6th of August 2019, if you have any of those documents, so that will also be applicable. I think practically this has been done with due thought, and it covers almost everybody who has settled anywhere in the globe.
Absolutely.
To get registered, but the window is open for registration up to for 1 year from the date of issue of this notification, that is 16th of May 2020. So it will be closed on 15th of May 2021. So obviously now it means that all the people who are listening right now, and all of you who are listening through them, who can convey to others all over everywhere, through Facebook, through social media, through YouTube, phone calls, whatever means you have, please impress upon them to apply for domicile certificate. And if somebody is not registered with J&K Relief Commissioner, apply for registration as well as domicile certificate immediately. Now, why should we waste time? You know, that's the point. Now, there's a timeline fixed. Now, you know, bureaucracy, the way people have been facing, people who could not get PRC earlier for quite some time, you have to follow up, 10 chakar lagane office ke, still you would not get, then somebody has to get some influence or some sufarish recommendation to get it. Now, there's a timeline for that. The Tehsildar has been, in this case, the PRC, the Relief Commissioner has been made responsible for issuing of domicile certificates, and in remaining cases, the local Tehsildar has been made a competent authority for issuance of domicile certificates. So to most of the cases, it will be now Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner, except those who are living in J&K, who is not registered as migrants or who want to get directly from the Tehsildar. That option is also there. Now, they have been asked to ensure that domicile certificate is issued within 15 days from the date of application.
Great. 15 days is the timeline.
15. And if somebody, if he rejects within 15 days, then the applicant can go in appeal to the Deputy Commissioner, and Deputy Commissioner has been given again 15 days for that sort of, for disposal of that. Now, if after that it is found that person was eligible for issuance of domicile certificate, and he is not issued domicile certificate, like DC takes more than 15 days to decide the case, or DC clears the case and Tehsildar doesn't issue the domicile certificate, now they will be imposed a fine of 50,000 rupees for each case.
Oh, 50,000. Okay.
So there is a penal section also to make them accountable, so that they don't, just lie down on the papers and because of some reasons don't issue the certificates to the persons who are eligible for it. Now, as far as the opportunities of opening up are concerned, today morning I was watching a video sent to me on WhatsApp. He had sent the video of his grandmother, and the grandmother is suffering from Alzheimer's, and she's staying with her grandson, I think in Pune or somewhere else, Pune or Bangalore, I don't right now recall, but it's outside J&K. And the video shows the restlessness of that elderly lady suffering from Alzheimer's. She keeps on recounting that I want to go home. I want to go so place in Shupaya. I think she belonged to Vachi, Vachi area. I want to go there. Allow me. She tries to scale the wall at that age. She throws her chappal outside the wall, wanting to jump the wall and go to her village. It only shows the anguish and the deep mental suffering and torture she has undergone. because of leaving her home.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
In this state of affairs, she is wanting to break free, thinking that by scaling the wall, she'll be free to go to her home. Now, it is therefore very necessary that everybody tries to have, if not the first home or second home there. Then we have to also remember the history of Kashmir. I'll briefly mention to you about it. My younger colleague, younger friend, Anil Bhatt, will I don't know whether he joined or not.
Yeah, I think he's got some technical issues, I believe, but I had
Okay,
shared the link
okay.
with him. But you can continue, sir. Till the time we can invite him
So-
next week also. So that's not.
So please ask him to throw some light on Kashmir history, but briefly, because that's also interesting. He
Right.
has read widely on that,
Right, sir.
and he can educate our youth. Because why I want that is that those who don't learn from the history are condemned to make mistakes.
They are doomed to
They-
failure.
They are doomed to failure. So it is very necessary to listen to learn from what has happened in Kashmir during last few thousand years. Now, briefly, I should tell you that when Gautam Buddha came, he came in 563, I think, 563, and died in 483 BC. That was the time when Buddhism was born.
Right.
So, and prior to him, his father, he was a Hindu king.
Yes, of course.
Buddha belonged to a royal family. He was, in fact, he had to ascend the throne. He was to be next emperor, but he gave up all that. He became a sannyasi. That's it. So he belonged to, there was a Hindu kingdom. Now, after that, during Kanishka's period or during Ashoka's period, 261 BC, when there was war of Kalinga, then there was again a brief period of Buddhism which came. But right from
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Sorry, sir. Actually,
So,
there was a
no,
call
no
from
issue.
Anilji only.
Okay, he's through on now.
No,
Now-
I
now-
think he was saying that I'm seeing you guys live. So I was just asking him, please join
So
in.
tell him to give a brief account of the history of Kashmir, because that's important for the youngsters to know.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Now, during that Kalinga war and after that, there was again a spell of Buddhism for some time. But Buddhism and Hinduism were never in conflict with each other. They were not at each other's throat.
Absolutely.
It was a coexistence rather,
Sure.
and it was just left sort of free for everybody to follow whatever he thinks best for salvation or for peace of mind. And right up to 1339, Kashmir was 100% Hindu.
100%, 100. My God. That's
So
awesome.
when Shah Mir took over from Kota Rani, it is said that some say she committed suicide. The circumstances, Anilji can tell you better because he knows. I don't want to take time on that because that's also interesting. You should listen from him. And then Sikandar Shah Butshikan, during his period, there was migration also. Later on, we had
It's very
huge migration, forcible conversion. Then we had Chak dynasty of Shia kingdom. They were against Sunnis as well as against Kepis. There was conversions, both from Sunnism to Shiaism and Hindus to Shias. Then we had Pathan rule again. So the six migrations which took place before 1990 migration during happened those years from 1339 to 1819. So that's 480 years. When in 1819 Ranjit Singh took over after some KPs approached him for help, and that's part of history. But what I want to emphasize is that for those 480 years, there was complete sea change.
The whole demography changed.
Complete, it went to over less than 10% of KPs by that time.
ethnic cleansing, actually. You know, it
So-
can be best said as mass
So,
cleansing.
and we had Ranjit Singh's time. Then after that, we had Maharaja Gulab Singh in 1846. And of course, in 1931, again, there were certain incidents which forced migrations. In 1986, again in South Kashmir, there were certain incidents which forced some migrations on a minor scale. But as I mentioned, the trickle has been always going on right from during the Maharaja's rule also, 1846 onwards. And prior to that, there was not trickle, there were huge migrations, exodus of different types from time to time. So I don't say that we have to reclaim the history, but we should have to forget the roots also.
Sure.
We should know where our roots are. And Kashmir, in any case, is a beautiful place.
Absolutely.
It's a land of rishis. And incidentally, lots been talked about Sufism and other things. And Shamir and others who came and preached Islam, they were also considered to be Sufis, and the conversions also took place. And there are lots of tales of, not tales, but factual accounts of the atrocities. Like we have in Dal Lake, you have Bhat Mazar. I don't know whether you heard of it. Bhat Mazar is the place where KPs who were resisting conversion were tied with stones and thrown in Dal Lake in hundreds and thousands. And it was obviously lots of conversions took place because of that threat also, but some people prefer to die and get, and that place is still known as Bhat Mazar, where they were drowned. So the history is full of those things, which makes one feel that the entire community en masse has been thrown out because of not willingness or because of not voluntary conversion. It has been forced conversion. It has been killings. It has been history of exodus. And if now the establishment, the government is providing a helping hand
Yes.
to re-establish with peaceful coexistence along with others and
Absolutely.
re-establish in our own land, we should not give it up. We should ensure that we live up to our ancestors who have faced so many executions, killings.
Sir, I'm just receiving questions for you, sir. So we had a format in which, obviously you would, present the topic and then.
Okay. Well, I think meanwhile I have more or less finished also. So
yes,
carry
sir.
on with questions.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for a brilliant in-depth analysis, sir. We are all very privileged to hear a lot of information. Everybody who actually hears to this webinar. Thanks a lot, sir. And I would now, there is a question from Mr. Munish Jalali. And he is saying it's a very relevant question. Kindly share light on did OCIs are overseas
Citizens of India.
Are they covered in domicile? He is asking, sir.
Those who have obtained citizenship of other countries.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They are not Indian citizens because Indian Constitution, unless it is amended, at the moment the Indian Constitution does not recognize dual citizenship.
Okay.
So any Indian citizen who acquires citizenship of any other country ceases to be Indian citizen.
Right.
So you can't be citizen of two countries simultaneously, unlike some countries like Australia recognizes being an Australian national also as well as US national. But India does not recognize it. So if you are not an Indian citizen, obviously you can't be domicile of a part of the Indian country.
You can't be. Okay, that's very clear.
So, but if you are a green card holder, you are an NRI, you are eligible. Because you have not acquired citizenship of any other country. That is the basic distinction. There is no other distinction beyond this. It is citizen versus non-citizen. That's all.
Okay. So when we say, OCI and basically NRI, what is the essential difference? And NRI is a non-resident Indian, but OCI.
NRI is an Indian, is a non-resident. Green card holder is again an Indian green card holder. He's an Indian, not a US citizen or anybody or of another country. But whosoever has acquired citizenship, overseas citizen, it means, if I understand it well, those I'm subject to correction, if I understand it well, that it means citizen of any other country, but an Indian basically, but who is a citizen of other country. So if you're citizen of other country, you are not citizen of India.
So you forego so basically you forego the citizenship of your country if you're applied for a
not applied. If you are already, it is just only application. It doesn't mean that you lose citizenship. You can't be citizen of no country. You have to be citizen of sub country. So as long as you don't acquire citizenship of any other country, and you are an Indian born person, you are an Indian citizen.
So there is no dual citizenship format in India, at least at the moment.
That is not recognized under Indian constitution. You can't be citizen of two countries. You can't be an Indian citizen as well as citizen of any other country also. Yeah, but some countries have this, but India doesn't have this provision.
Great, sir. Great, sir. And any other questions that we have? Mr. Kamal Variku, he is one of our KP Startups members. So he's asking that he's based in Bangalore also, and he's got a manufacturing unit in Jammu. He's actually shifted to Jammu now. He's asking that will we get professional environment, what we are getting in Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, Gujarat, Bangalore, or abroad? So what basically he wants to say, obviously, is that he's an entrepreneur. He has his own manufacturing unit in Jammu. Obviously, there are a lot of issues going on because of this COVID. So will this eventually evolve into a situation where KP entrepreneurs, not only KP entrepreneurs, but all entrepreneurs can eventually move to J&K, set up their manufacturing units or maybe service industries and get a professional environment? Like, are we heading towards that, or it's a pipe dream still, wherein because maybe the JKUT, it is basically union territory now. So it's a central government territory now. So, having a chief minister, caretaker chief minister, as people are saying that he will surely be sworn in. Will there be any essential change on ground, or are we looking at the same conventional atmosphere, the same kind of, you also know you've been at the highest of the positions, wherein a lot of bureaucracy issues, a lot of red tapeism is there, corruption. So will there be any change on ground situation post this, probably this domicile change and probably, the direct control of the central government, or more meddling of central government, with more integration of J&K with us? So will there be any change on ground? Can we say to our KP brothers in Bangalore and Delhi, Pune, please start, because the situation is going for better. We will be getting support from the state government, from the central government, to set up something there. You don't have to be a permanent resident. You can set up something with the local guys, give them job, and eventually coordinate and give the economy a thrust, as well as obviously earn from the whole exercise. So are we near that situation, or it's still a pipe dream?
Second question first, about the caretaker chief minister and all the dispensations which are being talked about. Let me tell you from my experience. All the things which float around in market or in social media now are rumors till something happens on ground. So we should not get driven in by what's floating around unless a government source confirms it. Till that time, these are mostly, I have found that these are imaginations of people or guesses of people, not even informed guesses. It's the guesses of people. Somebody goes to Delhi, meets somebody, then the rumor starts that he's going to get something. So most of the things are just rumors, and let's wait for what actually happens. But the more important question, which has been mentioned, which has been projected by you, is about the entrepreneurship. Right. Now, the government is committed to provide a free and secure atmosphere. At the moment, let me admit, it is not, because terrorism is still on. And the mechanism existing on ground is still not so conducive as to ensure that you can establish your unit well, free of any mental worries. Because as long as you don't have mental peace, you can't succeed in any job or any profession. But government is committed. I believe that government is moving fast in creating an atmosphere which should provide a conducive atmosphere for making available a level playing field to all entrepreneurs. And I would, at this stage, at this point of time, I would only suggest that all the budding
picture.
That hello Anilji, good morning.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Namaskar, Anilji. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
So at this
convenience course, sir. Thank you. Yeah, please sir, continue.
So at this stage, I would only suggest is that the commitment of government is there. At this stage, we should just prepare ourselves, think about the plans, see what is coming from the government in the form of promoting industrialization, promoting entrepreneurship, and also providing secure and level playing field. The events will start unfolding in due course of time. And as we see the events unfolding and things getting implemented on ground, any of us, including you and me, will be able to unambiguously convince our own self that yes, the time has come that we can set up the unit there. We should move in. The only suggestion I'll give at this stage that we should mentally try to prepare ourselves for this.
Absolutely.
And have plans in mind so that at opportune time we are able to move along the lines which are good for the community as well as for the composite civilization of J&K also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Since we are a bit short on time, I would request Mr. Anil Bhattji, sir, if you could just brief us in a brief time, because we have been addressed by Khoda Saab. He has given us a complete background of it. But you know, in your words, if you can sum up like what the new domicile changes have taken place. So what will be the implications on KPs in general, and especially entrepreneurs, because obviously we are an entrepreneur group. KP Startups is a 225 strong group of KP MSMEs, entrepreneurs, businessmen that we have, you know, globally, and they come from globally. So if you could just help us on your perspective of it and how it's going to change the ground situation, or how is it going to affect us, KPs in particular. So you are on mute. If you could unmute yourself, sir. Anilji, can you hear me? Hello. Just a minute. Anilji, can you hear me? I think voice is not reaching him. In the meanwhile, sir, I'm getting a lot of questions. Khoda Saab, I think you can answer. I've got a question like, what are the opportunities available for startups, young entrepreneurs? It is a question by Naveen Mattu. Khoda Saab, there is a J&K startup policy, and it is a very wide, it is a very detailed policy, very, you know, in-depth policy. Like, is there any push by the J&K, the new J&K government or the JKUT to, you know, push the startups, push the young entrepreneurs towards J&K to start something, you know, basically kickstart the economy? Because there was a J&K, investor summit, the global investor summit that was to be to take place, but because of some reasons, it was not, it was not live. So, is there any conscious policy of the J&K government to promote startups, to promote entrepreneurship? What do you see on ground? Like, because you have been meeting a lot of top officials of the government. What is their mindset?
You know, when we go by the announcements of the union government, we can safely presume that government is seriously considering and seriously thinking of encouraging entrepreneurship, encouraging industrialization, creating job opportunities, promoting industries which are feasible for Kashmir, which can work and be profitable, provide opportunities, generate income in Valley as well as in Jammu region, and also create conditions in the form of security belts or maybe any other scheme which can ensure that you are able to work in a very conducive atmosphere. So as I mentioned, that the plan is there, the commitment is there, these things will start unfolding and everybody will come to know about it. Now, as the things start unfolding, we should react according to what is coming to us. The entrepreneurs can assess the policy which is coming in their way, which will be providing opportunities to them. And they will definitely find, as I understand, they will definitely find it quite attractive.
Right.
At the moment, we should work to get domicile certificates, mentally prepare ourselves, see if and when the government unfolds its plans and implements the measures on ground, what we have to do to start a business there and start moving there, or whichever way, maintain a relationship and a deep connect with Kashmir.
Sure, sir.
This has to be a simultaneous work. It can't be in, first let the thing come and then I will start thinking. So I would definitely suggest that one should start thinking so that as and when things unfold, you should be able to react to it and moving quickly at that point of time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Namaskar, Anilji. Anilji, I would request...
Namaskar, Chutti.
All
Namaskar, Kuda sir.
All well, sir.
Namaskar to all the panelists.
Thank you, Mara, for joining, for sharing your time, sir. We have been given a brief by Kuda sir, very beautifully, sort of in-depth analysis. I would request from your end, since you both are from different domains, from the press view and from your perspective, what is the new change, the domicile changes? How will it affect KPs in general? How, and especially KP entrepreneurs, if we say so? What is the take from your end, sir? If you could help us with that.
Abhinavji, as Kuda Sahab has given a total brief in multi-dimensional way, from the discrimination end to the development part of it. So I will mostly concentrate on one point about first I'll talk about the discrimination.
Right, sir.
Discrimination post Article 370 abrogation and 35A has gone. And with this, there were several stakeholders in Kashmir Valley who have been discriminated in Jammu and Kashmir. Firstly, Kashmiri Pandits who have left in places since before the migration, before independence. And then there were people who migrated from POK,
right.
Mirpur, Muzaffarabad, we call it Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The third is those people who had come from West Pakistan. They were unwanted citizens of Jammu and Kashmir. The fourth stakeholders were those who were brought for sequencing job in Jammu and Kashmir. And the fifth category of the people were those who came from Nepal and were part of Maharaja's army. And last but not the least is the women who used to marry outside. They were all the people who were discriminated over the period of time through legislative mechanism as well as through a social and political mechanism as well.
Right.
But one can understand, if we go back to the tribal rate, Kashmiri Pandits as it is have faced 7 migrations. Kuda Sahab has given a brief about it. He has dealt with various aspects of the migration. Rather, I will call it as genocide. I will not even call it because once we start, the discourse of convergence, it starts with a bloody chapter of history in Kashmir Valley. We go back to the Lalitaditya king. He is the Alexander of Kashmir. And till now, there is no chapter on him.
That's very strange. Even I came to know about him recently, and I was amazed that nobody knows him.
Alexander of Kashmir, as we call him, or the Chinese history in Chinese literature, is called as Mutai. And there is a beautiful history textbooks, even in Karnataka and other places. But the people of Kashmir, the government of Jammu and Kashmir, the government of India has done a great disservice and discrimination with him. He has been forgotten as one of the topmost warlords at that point of time, who had a biggest territory on its hold from Kashmir up to the Caspian Sea.
My God. No.
He was like Ashoka. He was like Alexander. He was any other king of India, but none had even included him in the textbooks to teach the children from the primary school level up to the graduation level or the post-graduation level, or even can be a PhD degree on him, about the great king of Kashmir, the Maharaja. Because once you include Lalitaditya in the textbooks, you are including, or you are focusing on, the Hindu Kashmir. So, in a way, this discrimination in the textbooks, in the religious academics, in the heritage of Kashmir, they were the forgotten, because they don't want to highlight the Hindu or the Buddhist Kashmir. Because most of our parental and grandparental generation have been taught Kashmir existed as if from Mughals. Before that, as if the Kashmir was never existing on the earth. So such was the biggest discrimination in an academic, what you called as academic terror, academic kind of separatism, academic kind of jihad, which was through a kind of, in fact, forgetting or burying the Hindu Kashmir academics, the Hindu Kashmir heritage, the Hindu Kashmir culture, or the Buddhist Kashmir. Because once you say, once you portray the lineage of the kings through the river of kings, which is called as Rajtarani, or the existence or the what we called as the origin of Kashmir, which is dealt by Nilmath Purana. So both of these manuscripts, both of these books, and one of the ancient most history texts in Kashmir Valley, if you compare with any other historical texts of any other place in the world. So Kashmir had a broader historical, cultural, and the heritage connect with India, with Central Asia, and it was always a kind of oasis or a kind of epicenter of the movement of culture, movement of religious, academics, or heritage, both towards Indian side as well as towards Central Asian side.
Oh, I see.
When we talk about Khuda Sahab had beautifully narrated the convergent history of Kashmir Valley. We started from Shahmir. How a person comes to Kashmir Valley as a trader, like East India Company came to India with 2,000 or 3,000 people and were rehabilitated in an area then called as Baramulla. That was Shah Mirza. He came from Central Asia. Along with him came the Sufi, came the Islamic preacher called Bulbul Shah.
Right, sir.
And in between came the Prince Nilchin. The conspiracy hedged over the period of next 20 years, laid foundation for convergence of Hindu Kashmir into a Muslim Kashmir. Because Kashmir was loaded like a chessboard, and invaders were used to weaken it. First, they came, because if you go back to Lalitaditya period, Indian Kashmir kings were never expansion in terms of having an ideology of an expansion or ruling or conquering world.
But sir,
what happened is,
I would just like to interrupt you, because we have got so many questions, especially addressed to you, that people are asking, before it actually finishes, we need to ask.
Yes, please.
To our panelists. So I would just take these questions and I would address
yes, please.
for the Saab, respectively. First question is, there is an attendee who is asking that, it needs to be addressed to you guys, that we have now settled in places outside Kashmir. Is it possible that there could be, ill benefits of being a domicile of J&K, like, admissions to educational institutions in states where we are residing? So will the new domicile thing affect the educational admissions in various states where people are? Will that be an effect, or there'll be no sort of collaborative effect on it?
I think as far as domicile is concerned, domicile gives you an inward journey towards Kashmir, not an outward journey.
Okay.
Inward means even if you are not registered, Khuda Sahab had dealt thoroughly on the subject. It meant it empowers you to return back to Kashmir Valley with all those rights to have land, to have your industry, to have your schools, and to apply for any government jobs, even for that matter, KS and KPS jobs. So it's a kind of a bridge which has been rebuilt and which was broken on 14th of May 1953 by the Act of 35A. So that act, when we say this date, it was an interesting episode that this order had to come on 14th of May 2020, because it has a historical perspective.
Right, sir.
On the same day in 1954, when 35A was enacted in Jammu and Kashmir by saying that, please, none of the Indian citizens is allowed in Jammu and Kashmir on that day. Bye-bye, you can't. That bridge was broken. And it was issued on 14th of August 2020 that this domicile, we have taken it to pre-independence period, and please come, you are welcomed. That was a kind of narrative that was built on this thing. As far as effect on rest of the places is concerned, as of now, there is no effect, whether as far as this reservation in different colleges or different institutions is concerned. I don't think there is, as of now, any effect of that reservation of Kashmiri Pandits living in different places across the world.
Great.
Secondly, it is a kind of homing on to their own Kashmir land. It's a rebuilding a kind of a thread. जिस तरीके से क्या हमारा ललाईश्वरी ने कहा कि आमे पद्र जो उसने एक वाक गाया है. So Om Pan. तो ये strong thread जो ये domicile का है, and I think we need to take a call broadly. Every Kashmiri Pandit across the world, whether he has migrated from that area due to different reasons, including employment, or for setting up units, or some kind of discrimination that has broadly affected and forced migration of the best human resource among the community to different parts of the world, they should register. They need to, in fact, this is an opportunity for our generation like us to build a connect with Kashmir Valley, to have a certificate that will entitle us to the residence, because there are provisions if a person who may have migrated in 50s, but he doesn't have these all parameters to buy a land. He can't, even if he's a Kashmiri Pandit, he can't get the land. Because legally speaking, you will have to have a documentation to get that land. So this is an opportunity for all of those Kashmiris. I feel someday down the line, maybe it will look like a joke. People have started cracking like this. But if some people can call and ask Rahul Gandhi, who is claiming to be from Dattatreya Gotra, to just come and register as a domicile of citizens of Jammu and Kashmir under the present dispensation. So this is a kind of all those people I have been talking to. The government has also built up bridges with Sunanda Vishisht. She is also a Kashmiri Pandit, but for almost 3 to 4 generations, they have reached out to those people. A section of Kashmiri Pandits who have left in 40s and 50s, they have built up the connect for issuing the domicile to start with those people which have left much before the independence and their generations.
Thank you, sir.
This is the first such initiative the government is taking to reach out. If at all anybody having the address, phone number of any Kashmiri Pandit in his 3rd or 4th generation, he wants to have, he should provide those addresses, provide the persons, name of the persons, so that the government can take a call and reach out to them. Because that is the initiative to look like there is a change in dispensation from Shahmir to Shias, Chucks, from Sultan to Chucks, and from Chucks to...
Thank you, Anilji. Anilji, we have got a lot of questions to be answered still, and we have got just 10 minutes left. I would just like Khoda Saab to answer a little bit faster. If you could just answer us in 1 minute each. There is a question like, okay, we have answered this. Sir, who are entitled to purchase immovable property in J&K with the new dispensation? Just a one-line answer, sir. Who are entitled to purchase immovable property in J&K with the new dispensation?
All those who get the can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can.
Yes.
All those who will get domicile certificates can apply to purchase a mobile property.
Great.
Yes,
great, sir.
That's true.
The next
And
question.
about a little bit more about those who are domiciles of other places. Will they lose the domicile of those places if they acquire a domicile of J&K? And the point is that most of the states in India where KPs are generally settled right now, like Bangalore, Delhi, or they don't insist on domicile certificate of those states. Most of the states don't have the domicile certificates issued. If at all some states have domicile certificates issued, they are for those categories for getting admissions or jobs. Jobs may not be there. Maybe certain benefits which are very ordinary in nature.
Okay.
Now you have to decide whether you want to keep on holding to those ordinary advantages, those small advantages, or to become a domicile of J&K with much larger benefits in future.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
So like you apply for IIT, you apply for national institutes, you apply in Delhi University, you apply in Bombay, most of the institutes of higher education. There's no requirement of being a domicile of Maharashtra for that. So don't have these apprehensions that you are going to lose something great because by acquiring domicile certificate of J&K, you are going to lose a lot somewhere else wherever you are right now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question to Anil Bhattji, a single line answer, sir. Question from Sumita Peshin, and it is, what do you see is the most critical impact of the new domicile process? Apart from major change in demographics, opportunities, does it give us and entrepreneurs and professionals any opportunities? So a single line answer, what is the most critical impact?
I'll tell you one thing. The government is working on a new industrial policy. I think because of the corona, that has been delayed.
Okay.
And it will be, I think, in the next couple of months, it will be announced.
Okay.
70,000 acres of land have been earmarked for new industrial corridors in Jammu and Kashmir.
Great. Okay.
Third, there are 2 incubation centers which is dealing with the skilled kind of entrepreneurship on artificial intelligence. One will be in Baramulla, other is in Jammu, and it is being done in Tata. And 5 international companies, European companies, are behind that project, and they are working to give a new setup to this entire thing. Startups will have an integrated role in this new dispensation in new industrial policy in J&K. That is being done. I think that has been delayed quite a bit, but government is working on it so that they could, and the government is also working on one, setting up a Silicon Valley kind of industrial corridor, which will be purely non-polluting for non-polluting industries. And that mechanism is being put in place. And I think because of entire this thing that has been delayed, I look towards next 2 months to put this policy in place.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Mr. Kamal Variku. Now he's saying how we as KP Startups, as a community of 225 entrepreneurs globally, how can we need a bridge between our members and the administration of J&K to, for all activities, including setting up our manufacturing unit services. How do we go about it? Like, what is the bridge that we can have from J&K, to whom to contact? Or like how to go about it as a group of KP startups?
Look, government has made a non-administrative group, and because of this corona factor that has been delayed, non-administrative group that will deal with kind of economic avenues in Kashmir Valley. Okay. All areas in Kashmir Valley have been earmarked for certain kind of industries. Okay. Certain kind of agriculture or horticulture or handicrafts based industries. That roadmap is fully being prepared, and it needs to be implemented at the grassroots level. Second, it is an invitation from the government of Jammu and Kashmir to Kashmiri entrepreneurs that they should come. Anybody applying from land in Kashmir Valley will be provided land at the concession rates. And they will be asked to provide a proposal, a project report with the government industries department, and that will be put in place, and lands will be issued without, and they are trying to basically set up a kind of promotional councils. All right. Which will be not the industries department, but the promotional councils will now come up with single window system instead, because of you have a problem with the bureaucratic system in J&K, because bureaucratic system has been more problematic in bringing investment to Jammu and Kashmir. If you compare with 13-year-old baby state like Uttarakhand and others, more than 1.5 lakh crores investment, but for 30 years with all packages, like you have this kind of tax holidays, IT and transport subsidies, lot more subsidies. But basically, the political establishment in Jammu and Kashmir were always trying to push out industries, instead of welcoming them to Jammu and Kashmir, it always dealt with keeping a kind of hegemony alive in Jammu and Kashmir, so that the industrial people, industries will not come to Jammu and Kashmir, and they will provide not only employment, it can also influence in building a peace narrative in Jammu and Kashmir. That is the biggest thing. Separatism is being survived. If the political dispensation has been dismantled, but the bureaucratic setup is still there. They are still creating so much of problems, whether it's investment, whether it is the laws, whether it is the cultural part of it. Need is, the government is seriously thinking on, in fact, revamping the entire bureaucratic setup in Jammu and Kashmir, because those political setups were actually the bureaucratic setup is a tool for the political administration. So they were the same people, same chunk of people who were reporting to those political bosses earlier. But thing is, whether this dispensation has changed, the narrative has changed, it needs to be put in place at the grassroots level, so that the people will have a faith in this administration. Look, the system has changed. You come, you are welcomed, and there is a kind of positive energy for everybody. That thing is being worked out. There are hiccups with the government, even in, for that matter, with the LG administration. But I think they will be amicably resolved. And I tell you that there is a group, Kashmiri Pandits, if they want to come back, they can contact that group. They will be facilitated in getting the land, facilitating them in terms of their own certifications, facilitating them whether there is some kind of incentives also that will be put in place for making an easy and return journey as far as to the industrial corridor in the first place, whether the return to their valley, to their homes is a priority as well.
Thank you, sir. You can share the details of that group.
Abhinav, I'll just add a line.
Yes, sir. Koda, sir.
You know, most of these facilities will be available online. But I agree with you that you require a bridge for the budding entrepreneurs. And I would just mention only one name for that. Anilji is in tune with and entrenched in day-to-day developments on the entire thing which is unfolding. Right. You please share his email and phone number with the entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs or the willing entrepreneurs.
Okay.
He is going to provide a very strong bridge and support to them.
Thanks a lot.
So he will feel bothered, but he's a strong bridge.
We'll certainly share our share his email address to the people who are actually willing, because we won't like to actually disturb him.
Not his address, otherwise people will start going to his home.
No, email address. Email address.
I'll tell you, government is also working on a new initiative that's called as corporate farming. If any Kashmiri Pandit owning an orchard or any land, he has always a threat of encroachment of the land. Second, that land is idle. The trees have been cut and everything problems. So he can just go and get a contract signed with the company.
Okay.
So that they will cultivate. The land will be on his name. He will get an yearly revenue from his resource. And that thing is being also worked out. It will be a corporate farming that government, I think, may be introducing in days to come.
So, just wanted to ask you a question from my end. When will this single window system, we have heard about the single window system in UP, Yogi Adityanath being very aggressive in order to attract the Chinese companies, the companies who are based in China. So he has started with this single window system. When will we have the single window system of clearance of files, clearance, registering manufacturing companies, service companies? When will we practically have this on ground? So is there any light in the day? Like, are you seeing it happen very soon, or so that
I think it will happen very soon. Once your new industrial policy for Jammu and Kashmir will be put in place,
right,
things will have a different shape.
Right.
Everything will be easy. because it is unlike in the past that hurdles were created, and it was a regime of harassment that would force an industrialist, even if he sets an unit for 5 years, to leave with that unit and just abandon that program and that project and leave back to his place. That was a deliberate kind of mechanism put forth with this political establishment in Jammu and Kashmir. That narrative has to be broken. Right. The new things has to be put in place. That's why everything is being overhauled. Everything, a new industrial policy, and in that direction, that Tata-based with rupees 350 crore each investments in Baramulla, they never set up that incubation center in the Srinagar city. They went to Baramulla, so that the railways and everything that is being worked out, you will have a beautiful railway station, one of the topmost railway station in Kazigund. And I think there are certain developments going on for some kind of industries and everything in that area also. And there is a kind of several new industrial economic zones coming up in Kashmir Valley on these 70,000 acres of land that government is looking towards.
So that means any Kashmiri Pandit can actually set up his manufacturing unit or a service company.
It is an open invitation. They want the most of the KPs to come back and be part of the development journey of Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay, so that's not a problem. There will be no harassment in future, I believe. So that
I think that the government is very serious on change of that political narrative. Yeah. And the policy vis-a-vis Kashmir is concerned.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Abhinav, there is a question from somebody.
Sure, sir.
I am not a PRC holder. I do not fulfill any of the 7-year or 15-year requirement. Will I get domicile certificate based on my father's PRC? The answer is yes. Then his further query is, my children, will they get domicile based on the PRC of their grandfather? The answer is yes. Again, what about my grandchildren? Is domicile ship heritable in perpetuity? It is heritable. It will pass on. It will be a constant and continuous process. Then there is another question. What is a domicile whether the application is live? NLG can throw more light on it, but I have been informed by NLG a few days back that it will be live shortly.
When will it be live, sir? And when we submit an document online domicile, so will we get an instant certificate like we have for MSME registration, an instant certificate, Aadhaar based OTP, and is there?
Yes, it will be. It will have a similar kind of. You will be delivered domicile certificate in your email.
Awesome.
Wherever you apply, it will come. There's nobody has to come to the office, and for that matter, the government is in fact upgrading the relief department. Special cells are being created, and then the staffing is being put in place.
And I believe that certificate is good enough. You can take a printout, and that will be good enough for you to say that you are a state subject. You don't require an old state subject.
Because what is need is government is making a data bank for Kashmiri Pandits. All those who are Kashmiri Pandit having a name. Basically, the aim is any Kashmiri Pandit who has a surname and who is basically a Kashmiri Pandit has to be enrolled. Whatever be the ways and means to enroll him. The basic issue is the motive, and the main issue is to at least enroll them and create a data bank of Kashmiri Pandit wherever they live, whatever the reasons they have left for Kashmir, they need to be certified that they are the inhabitants, the original inhabitants of Kashmir Valley.
Thanks a lot, sir. Anybody else has any questions? So we'll be actually closing this because we've already crossed our time, 12:30. It's more than 12:45, I believe. Anyone else has any questions so that we can, is there anything for manufacturers? Yes, I mean, there is, it's been explained that you can.
There is one question by Naveen Motu. Can we start voting and bring government of our choice? The essential requirement for that is that get a domicile certificate, you will be registered as a voter, and you can vote. And as per the rough estimates, the number of KPs who are eligible to get domicile certificate globally is running into figures which are much more than what we generally talk of. So
Yes.
that's an optimistic thing. So obviously, the first requirement from your side will be to get registered as a domicile certificate holder, get registered and get domicile certificate, and then you'll be automatically on the voter list. Then, of course, in democracy, the voters have the choice about the government.
So how do we know the link? Because somebody has asked, Shruti Talashi. She said, please share the link /app for applying domicile online. So we still don't have the link, right? I hope we'll have.
I think that process is on in next couple of days. I think the Governor Saab will either inaugurate it or it will be put in public domain next couple of days. And that process is in the final shape.
Right. Khoda Saab, the last question, very, very good question. I think this is the last question that we'll take. From Vinay Kaulji, girls married to outside Kashmiri communities, what about their children? So they can also apply for domicile? Girls married to outside Kashmiri communities.
Yes.
Outside.
Anil ji, batao.
Yes, they can apply. Their children and their grandchildren can also apply.
Oh, fantastic. That is an awesome thing. Okay, so I think we had a superb session. I think this is a new thing that we have actually introduced. That's the webinar thing. I'm really grateful for
this. I'll just for this
yes,
KP Starts group.
Yes,
I'll share one of the name of one person
right,
who can facilitate wherever you have any problem.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
You can talk to him. You can talk to him.
Right.
Wherever, not only on the industrial front, whatever problem you will face,
right, sir.
Whether it is anything in Jammu and Kashmir, that will be ironed out.
So I would be in sync with you,
and everything will be facilitated.
Sure,
and that is we must hope for the better days to come.
Sir, I think we will be very closely working with you because we would certainly require such kind of a protection and such kind of a help and guidance. We will be closely working with Khoda Saab, Kuldeep ji, who has been a treasure house of knowledge, very beautifully and very humbly and very simply. He has given us complete background and knowledge about this. I thank both of you are community stalwarts who have actually shared their time, their knowledge. Thanks a lot, sir, and be in touch with us continuously. We require your guidance, both of you, sir. This is not the first and the last webinar that we'll be having with you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhinav. Thanks to all the listeners.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You've been a great audience. Thank you.
Thank you.